Hello and welcome to AWS Made Easy episode number 117. This is the show where we interview guests from AWS, talk about the latest in cost optimization and AI news, and answer your questions. My name is Stephen Barr.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rahul Subramaniam, and welcome to today's show. How have you been, Stephen?
Really good. I'm just so happy to be here. It's end of Labor Day weekend here, so yeah, great. How about yourself?
That's awesome. Over here, it's getting a little hot and humid. Thankfully, the extreme heat is kind of gone, and we're getting occasional showers, so weather's getting a little more pleasant in comparison. But yeah, otherwise, so much happening on the AI front. We're generally indoors, working our way on keyboards, trying to just keep up with everything that's happening. We have so
I
much new stuff to discuss today.
I can't even imagine that. I grew up in the DC area and it got humid there. There were days in the summer where it was 95 degrees and 90% humidity. I can imagine that you have that beat.
Yeah, this is all 100 plus, so it's a different level of humid. But yeah, so we have a lot of very interesting stuff happening today. What do we have in store, Stephen?
Well, we usually like to talk about the newest, the latest, the greatest, but our first article talks about the opposite. This is the opposite end when you've got the old software. Now, this is an interesting one. Let me put this on screen.
Great. This is something that actually kicked off back in February. So I believe it was end of Feb when MySQL's extended support kicked in for 5.7 and particularly the minor version 5.7.44. And if you aren't on MySQL 8, unfortunately for you, the extended support kicks in automatically. Now, the reason why we wanted to bring this up today was that the costs can accumulate dramatically. In this particular case, the support cost exceeds the cost of the instance itself.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So if you look at the pricing page right here, if you look at the RDS user guide, this one says RDS for MySQL pricing, and you click here, you go down to this extended support, and it has this very short little blurb here about extended support, 10 cents per vCPU hour in year 1 and 2, and 20 cents per vCPU hour in year 3. Well, that doesn't sound too
Correct.
bad, right? 10 cents, 20 cents. We're going to put some calculations up here on the screen to give you an idea of just what that means. So for a db.t3.medium, so that's on the very small size of an RDS.
And this is just two vCPUs, right? Just
Yes,
two
this is
vCPUs
two
here.
vCPUs. So the base price, looking at the notes here, the base price per hour is 6.8 cents per hour.
Yeah.
So if you're using that 6.8 cents per hour, then all of a sudden, year 1 and 2, you don't have to do anything. It's just the passage of time. You will automatically be enrolled. It will go from 6.8 cents to 26.8 cents in years 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then
So just to put that
46.
in numbers that is more comprehensible, we're talking about $50 a month or $49 a month with the base, DB.T3 medium that you were paying earlier. And the minute extended support kicks in, you are paying almost $200 a month. And then in year 3, you are paying almost $350 a month. So the cost of the instance goes from $50 a month to $350 a month in year 3 if you haven't moved your instances from MySQL 5.7 over to 8.
Or another way of putting it, imagine if you had your internet bill as the baseline, and your
Yes.
internet bill plus Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney, and Paramount, and all the other ones. All of a sudden, that's the order of magnitude jump for the
Correct.
in year 1 and 2. And
Yeah,
year 3, that's everything plus the big screen.
correct. And the one of the biggest hurdles to moving from 5.7 to 8 is that there are some breaking changes in the SQL itself. And so unless you've actually made code level changes to do this migration, it's really hard to make it actually work. And to give you some perspective about why it actually might be worth doing this, a typical SQL production database that you're running is at least a 16 XL, right? So if you were to take an M6i 16 XL, you would typically be spending just a little under $4,000 a year. $4,000 a month on that 16XL instance, which is, and then if you go on to M6 side or 16XL plus the support, it works out to, I believe, a little over $8,500. So you go from under $4,000 to $8,500 for year 1 and 2 per month. And then in year 3, this will kick up to over $13,000. Okay, so what we're talking about here is that you are spending on one 16XL instance over, just for year 1 and 2, you're spending over $100,000 extra to make that happen. So this might be one of those cases where it's totally worth putting in the effort to make the code changes and get your instances moved up to MySQL 8.
So this is one Cybertruck per year.
Yes.
Per instance.
Per instance. And most organizations have more than one 16XL, database instance that's running. So it's time to go check out the inventory that you have, find all those RDS instances that are 5.7, and just do a quick math to see if it's worth the effort to migrate over to MySQL 8.
Now, I think this is the very quintessential idea of tech debt. If you're running on the old MySQL, you've probably known for a while that this debt is going to come due, and this extended support is literally the manifestation of that. As fewer and fewer people are using this code base, Amazon has to backport security updates, but then maintain backwards compatibility, and it's a smaller and smaller group of people who are subsidizing that. So that's why it gets so expensive.
Yeah. So take the time to do this, and I believe CloudFix now has a finder for this one, right?
Absolutely. They put this on the screen, the blog post. I like the imagery when software grows old, minimizing spend on AWS. I put one of an old robot here. So the idea is we go through all of the changes. Now, in this particular one, we can't do the fixer side because, like I said, there's breaking changes in the code. But what we can do is put these big flashing sirens in front and say, hey, look, this is going to be really expensive. And then you can make the call. Is it worth it or is it not?
Exactly. So take the time to look at it, please. This is big. This could have big changes. And if you're not tracking this, it'll just go as a simple line item and you wouldn't even realize that you've automatically been enrolled for extended support. There's no way to get out of it. If you launch an instance that is one of these older versions, it will automatically enroll you into extended support. There is no way around it. So the only way to solve the problem is to actually make the code changes and migrate to MySQL 8.
Yeah. And you think, why can't you just opt out? Well, Amazon still has to keep it secure. It's a managed service. And so there's going to be security vulnerabilities that are discovered that they then have to port to this old code base without making any breaking changes. So it's a complicated problem, and someone has to pay for it.
Exactly. Okay. What's next?
The next one on the agenda, this is a neat one. This is, should we rate this one?
Oh yeah, we should. I don't know if it simplifies or complexifies. I would give this a 3 on the blog post part of it because I don't think the blog post does a great job of emphasizing how important it is for the consumers or the users. It shows up as a tiny little, byline in the larger documentation around RDS. I would have loved to see this say, your costs are going to go up by over 100% if you don't do this. We're happy to provide support, but remember that if you're staying on here, you're going to pay over 100% for year 1 and 2 and maybe 200% more in year 3. So that would have been a good alarm, also helping customers move over rather than it silently showing up in their bills.
If you remember the classic internet, this is the time for the blink and the marquee tags. This is when you want to call this out. This isn't click on this little pricing button to learn more. No. This is marquee blink under construction.
Exactly. But it's not only that. When you click on the pricing button, the extended support section is way low. It's literally the last item in the menu over there, and you get to see everything else before you come to the extended support costs. So I think it kind of hides something that's really important, and that's not very nice.
No, I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just their style,
Yeah,
but they can change it. It's theirs.
correct.
Okay, next one. Bedrock knowledge bases. Bedrock knowledge bases, we talked about this last week with Bedrock
Yeah,
knowledge bases being able to support Sonnet 3.5, Claude
correct.
Sonnet 3.5 from Anthropic. Now, Bedrock knowledge bases now supports Llama 3.1, all the models 405B, 70B, and 8B. So you can
Yeah,
use that. It's available in just US West, the Oregon, so US West 2. And
correct.
yep, that's nice. So if you wanted to use the Llama ecosystem, if you wanted to use an open source model instead of Anthropic, that is now an option. Oh, I
Agreed.
put together. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that Llama 3.1 is an amazing set of models, um, particularly if you're just doing a whole lot of text-based analysis. Now, as we've discussed before, you have 3.5 Sonnet, which is actually capable of doing images and text and multimodal that way in terms of analysis. But if you are using Bedrock knowledge bases right now, that's text only, and therefore Llama 3.1 might actually be an equally powerful yet more cost-effective way to manage your knowledge bases or being able to query those knowledge bases.
Now, I don't know if this is heresy or not. I use Claude to do a price comparison of Claude versus Llama. So I just literally pasted in the two screenshots of the pricing page here because they're in different spots.
Right.
Pasted in the two screenshots and say make a nice table that compares them, and also use Claude 3.5 Sonnet as a baseline, just so you get an idea of the magnitudes of prices. I find it difficult to compare these tiny dollar amounts in my head. So being able to compare them with this price ratio columns, we say, okay, if Claude is our reference,
Right.
8B is 0.03 of that,
That's
whereas
3%. That's a 97% savings on it.
which is less than Haiku, right?
Correct.
It's almost a little
It's less
a
than half
third.
of Haiku.
Yeah. So yeah. You
And
can
then the
look at
70B model, which is a very, very capable model, is a 90% cost reduction. And then you have the 405B, which is about a 4 or 5% reduction.
yeah. So now you can make an informed choice. And with knowledge bases, especially if you use the Converse API, it's really easy to then change one model to the other, even
Correct.
mid conversation if you wanted to.
Exactly. So
Well,
yeah, this is a new feature. I think this I love the fact that the catalog of LLMs that are easy to plug in into Bedrock is um, growing and being that much more capable. So this is definitely a simplifies for customers, and I would give this one a 4.
awesome. All right. For clouds and simplifies for Bedrock knowledge bases now supporting Llama 3.1. It would be nice if it launched into more than one region, like US
Yes.
East 1 at least. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, I think this is just a question of capacity and time. Everyone is scrambling for those GPUs, and growing capacity in every one of those data centers, I imagine, isn't easy at this time. And
Oh,
when
I'm
someone
sure
like
some
AWS
folks
wants to
can,
do this,
yeah.
they have to do it at a scale that is, unimaginable. Like you don't want to say, "Hey, we support this in this particular region," and not have enough GPUs to support customers when they request the service.
Yeah, you don't want your API request to return unavailable more often than not. I'm
Exactly.
sure that whoever is in procurement over at AWS has got NVIDIA on speed dial.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. So it's just a matter of time before we see this show up at all the data centers or all the different regions. But US West 2 is where it is at right now.
Well, cool. All right. Well, this is a simplifies and a for cloud for knowledge bases Llama 3.1. Okay, next one. This one came from Reddit that was posted there a couple of days ago that I thought was kind of neat.
Yeah.
GitHub Action that uses Amazon Bedrock agents to analyze GitHub pull requests. So, have you been using LLMs to do software analysis and code analysis? Well, you've been doing that quite a bit. What's been your
Yes.
experience generally?
So LLMs have gotten really good at. We use a couple of tools that actually do pull request analysis, and they've been really amazing. It works really well because the scope of what is to be analyzed is relatively limited. But over the last 2 or 3 months, I'm starting to see LLMs get really good at analyzing larger and larger pieces of code as the context windows increase and as the performance of the needle in the haystack parameters improve drastically. You can actually give it, entire packages or, a few hundred files to analyze at a time, and it does a brilliant job. It actually understands all the context of everything that's going on in your code base. And if you have a small little project, the entire project can be loaded up as context to the LLM, and it'll do a pretty neat job of either generating new code or analyzing existing code or refactoring old existing code.
Looking at the agent itself, it's fairly straightforward. And plus, you can put in
Yeah.
these variables for agent ID, alias ID. There's a prompt right there with the default of saying, given the relevant code changes, give me a detailed analysis,
Yep.
comma, separated list of patterns to ignore. So ignore your markdown and documentation files. It's pretty neat. This is implemented in Node. And I like wiring things up within CI CD. So that way,
Right.
not every single developer has to set up their own set up their own prompts and system of doing this. Everyone can
Yes.
see the same one, and then you can refine the prompt as a group. If there's something that someone thinks of, you can modify this action itself, and then the prompt is versioned along with everything else.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. CI/CD is the right place to put a lot of these things. That way, you only worry about pushing your code, and the rest gets taken care of for you automatically. Check out, there are a bunch of different tools that are available which leverage LLMs now for um, pull request analysis, for code analysis. I think the hottest topic right now on the internet is the use of Cursor to build applications and write new code. It is a really cool tool. If you haven't tried it already, you should check it out. But yeah, I think we're going to see a new age of how code is written, how code is deployed, and how code is analyzed. The old static analysis is genuinely obsolete at this point.
I got a text from a friend in all caps. You need to try Cursor. So I'm looking forward to that. I think
I
it'll
got. I'm starting to see jokes and memes now, which just kind of is a showcase of its popularity. Someone sent me a forward that said, two friends kind of chatting with each other, and one of the friends got this thing that saying, "You got to try Cursor. I built this amazing app in like 5 minutes." And the other friend says, "I don't believe it. Show it to me." And then he sends a URL that says localhost :3000.
That's great. That's really good. Well, use Cursor. You might have to set up some port forwarding if you want to share this with your friends. But yeah, I'm going to be reporting back on that. If something's going to get me to use something other than Emacs, maybe it's Cursor. So let's see.
Yeah, you should check out Cursor. It's really cool. Okay, what's next?
Speaking of code analysis, so I did on my personal AI agent, it's called Second Brain Claude Tool, or SBCT is what I've taken to calling it. I ported the code from the Messages API. So I was using the Anthropic Messages package
Right.
to Converse API. So it's basically the same. There was a bunch of little changes that I had to make. And I thought, maybe I had one commit that had all the little changes that I made in order to take something that was fully functioning with messages and getting it to be fully functioning with Converse. And so what I did, I used Git to make a diff between that commit and the previous one.
Right.
And then I said, summarize all the things that were in this change. And I could have made a blog post about it and SEO optimized it and spent the afternoon on it. I didn't think that was worth the time putting in. So I just thought, okay, let's just make a blog post with Claude. And here's the diff, iterated, 2 or 3 times, spent a total of about 4 minutes on this. And it's a good reference for myself if I'm ever doing this porting again from messages to Converse. Is okay, what needed to happen? Okay. And it shows me the differences. Okay, the import statement is different. I'm going
Right.
from the Anthropic Bedrock over to
Boda 3 itself.
Bedrock runtime. Yep, so that's fine. changing how I'm calling it. So instead of the messages.create, I'm doing client.converse.
Yeah.
And the Anthropic uses, what is it? Snake case. No, they use camel case, and then the other one uses snake case.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, the snake case in Bodo. So that took a few changes. And it says notice that the changes in parameter name structure, particularly the introduction of inference config and tool config. So see, this one was tools right here, whereas here it's an object that says tools and then the tools. So that was a little bit how you access the stop codes within the messages is slightly different. So Anthropic messages has a proper Python object, whereas in Bodo 3, it's just a dictionary, and so you have to look for the key in the dictionary. They're pretty close, as you can see.
Yeah.
Let's see. I had to change the way I specified my tool specification. So
Yeah.
the tools have this tool spec. They're basically the same thing, same fields, but there's a tool spec wrapper in it.
Yeah.
And there's this JSON key here. So this was a little bit different. My message format changed a little bit from a simple message into this little message array. I had to change some JSON serialization because I was using Pydantic types, and the messages array was able to work, or messages was able to work directly with types, the Pydantic types, but Converse wanted JSON, and so I had to make this custom JSON encoder to handle some of these time and enum types, make sure those worked.
Nice.
And then that was it. So it just gave me a little to-do list. And again, this is, it's not, doesn't have a ton of personality in this blog post, but it's a good list of things to check for if you're doing this conversion.
Yeah, that's actually pretty neat. I'd be very interested to know if you could give Claude a piece of code that is written up to use Messages API and this blog post, and see if it can actually do the conversion for you.
That's a great idea.
We should try that out.
Till next time.
Because can you imagine what it would mean to have a bunch of these documents created from a one-time effort and then have Claude or whatever LLM be able to take that and actually do the work on a whole lot of other instances?
Well, and then I can have it build on itself, right? Where every successful conversion, maybe the first time there's one or two more things that were cases that mine didn't cover that the new one discovered. So you put that into the knowledge base, and then after a few iterations, you probably got it working hands off.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Then, definitely use Converse API. Although one thing I didn't realize is that Sonnet 3.5 does not allow you to send documents via the Converse API in Bedrock. I don't know why.
It's because I think you have the least common denominator API.
Well, you can still attach documents. It's give me 1 second. I'll pull up the URL. I was baffled that this was the case. Here it is. Document chat. 3.5 Sonnet. Claude. No. So, that was surprising. Because you can do document chat with the Anthropic UI.
Right. Correct.
So I guess for that, I'll still use that. Or, luckily, since I'm going to Converse, I can just switch it over to...
You can now do 3.1 Llama.
3.1. Yeah, exactly. Llama 3.1 405B.
Yeah.
For 96% of the cost.
Correct.
Cool.
Or for document, conversations, even 70B might be just enough. Because I don't think you need that much of an improvement in language understanding for it to be able to analyze just these documents.
Yeah.
It could be 90% cheaper.
These are feature specifications. They're not Shakespeare. So, it should be fine. Okay.
Great.
We'll have one more announcement here. Amazon OpenSearch Service now supports Graviton 3 instances. This is pretty cool. C7G, M7G, R67G, R7G. So all the Graviton 3s, better price performance than the Graviton 2s.
Yep.
We're big fans of Graviton. What do you think of this one?
Definitely simplifies. Simple upgrade mechanism. And you want to be on the latest version if you're managing or if you're not using the serverless version of OpenSearch. So just go ahead and get to the latest version of Graviton. The price performance totally makes it worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. One more shout out to CloudFix. CloudFix, we have an OpenSearch Right-Sizer, which of
Yep.
course now supports Graviton 3. So have a look. If you're a CloudFix customer, have a look at your OpenSearch recommendations. And if you are on the OpenSearch database team within your organization, you can now set up custom alerts for resources by type. So if you're the OpenSearch person at your organization, you can set up CloudFix OpenSearch alerts so you start to see new recommendations roll in. Have a look at those.
Some tools just find AWS cost savings and make you do all the work. Visualizing cost opportunities is great, but that's not enough. CloudFix, on the other hand, actually delivers those savings for you. And you don't need to worry because CloudFix uses AWS recommended savings techniques. It fixes, not just finds. It's the easiest way to save money on AWS. It's 100% automatic and risk-free. And the best part of all, it works non-stop. Stop overspending on AWS and click on the link to start saving now.
Okay, we are back. Now we wanted to talk about Mem0. Now this is, they call it the memory layer for your AI apps. Now we've had the co-founder, one of the co-founders of Mem0, Taranjeet Singh. He's on a previous episode. I'll put the link right there in the description to check that out. At that point, they were calling it embed chain, but they've since broadened embed chain as part of the M0 project. But M0 adds some pretty neat features. So, Raul, you've been using Mem0 in production. What's been your experience?
Yeah, so it's actually really cool, and I actually find so embed chain. If you guys remember from an earlier episode, embed chain is basically a simple, all in the box RAG based solution where you don't have to worry about instrumenting and basically getting all this plumbing done across all these different systems. You've got your document vector stores, you've got your LangChain or your LLM layers, and then you've got all the other plumbing you need to do to just get a simple RAG solution working. So instead of that, embed chain made it really, really easy to manage tons of different data loaders with different combinations of vector stores and different LLMs that you might choose. And you could get up and running in a matter of minutes. And that was really amazing. What they've pivoted to recently is the memory layer. And I really love this. So we've been talking about knowledge graphs for a while. Knowledge graphs are really amazing in that they capture a lot of the information that you want in your documents, in your conversations, in your whatever text or whatever content you give it, and they organize it, or you organize it in a way that becomes semantically relevant. So for example, if you say, let's take a look at the example that's on screen right now, where if the user says, I love spicy food, right? To know that that particular user understands the needs, or their food preference is spicy. That's part of a knowledge graph. You build out these attributes of this user over a period of the conversation. So what Mem0 does is it looks at all the tokens, all the entities in the conversation, and then says, okay, where does this fit in the knowledge graph? How do I add it to this particular user's attributes? And it stores all of this in a graph database, which is Neo4j right now. And then you just do graph, queries on it under the hood. So it's really, really simple to use. The thing that I really admire about Taranjeet and his team is that I think every time I've looked at how they have thought about the product, number one, they have the developer, persona in mind, but they also have a very particularly newbie developer persona in mind. Their ability to simplify the API, their ability to keep things very, very easy to use, very simple to use, even for a newbie and getting started in a minute, is absolutely spectacular. In contrast, a lot of the other developer APIs that you see over here try to cater to the superpower user who has all context of everything. And that's very hard to get started with. So I love the way Taranjit and team have kind of the Mem0 team has put all of this stuff together. It's really cool. And yeah, you should check it out. Do we want to do a quick demo of this?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. Quick plug before we jump into the demo. So the graph backend is Neo4j, which is a really neat graph database. They've been around for a long time right now. If you are interested in graph databases, there's this really neat conference called Data Day Texas. It's in Austin, Texas. It is really a great group of people. Friend Lynn Bender puts it on every year. And a colleague and former guest of the show, David Hughes, he is going to be speaking. Data Day Data Day Austin is really, really neat for all things graph. So check that out. Okay, Neo4j. And I've actually spoken at Data Day Austin, wow, almost a decade ago. Wow. Time flies. Okay. Okay, so here's Neo4j. Here is the graph. Now I was just playing with some data. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can read this. Let's see. Here we go. Stephen planning AWS made easy. Stephen is friends with Darko. Stephen runs show AWS made easy. Where's Raul?
I saw my name somewhere there.
Here you go. Raul is running show AWS made easy. Raul. Oh, I was talking about development environments. Raul uses Cursor.
Yeah.
Raul has X handle. Raul Dev Factory. It shows that we're both working for CloudFix. Now, to give you context of how cool this was, there was an idea a long time ago called the semantic web. And the idea was that every entity would fit into this enormous universal ontology of types. And you'd have cities, which would be a part of places, which would be a part of geography, which would be a part of thing. And if every last thing in the world was categorized according to the same ontology, then you could do reasoning about, well, this is a city and that is a city. Therefore, they're both the same type of entity and we can compare them. And the hard part is, it's like that classic XKCD. There was ontologies that were not compatible, different versions. It got into these really obtuse languages of RDF and triple stores. And I went down this rabbit hole for a couple of years. It was a beautiful idea, but it was really, really hard to get right outside of very limited context. So this would have taken a while to construct. Let me show you how I constructed this using Mem0. Okay.
Yeah.
That works. It's now connected to the graph database. Let's add a new person. M.add. Actually, that was a good example of what we were doing on there. Raul, how about this? We can do this. I like spicy food. User ID equals Raul. Okay. So in this, we have a user ID Raul, so it knows you're already in there. And all we got is one message back. Okay. So
why don't we just do the match S, return S, and see what it says?
See our new graph. Okay, so from Raul, we should have a node to spicy food now. There we go. Likes spicy food.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, if I do something like m.add, I like spicy food. I really like spicy food. User ID Steven. Spell my own name right. Okay. So let's have a look at the graph again. So what's pretty neat, there's now a spicy food node that we're both pointing to with an attribute of likes.
Yeah.
Now let's see if we could do another one. M.add. There is a restaurant in Seattle. What's a good restaurant name? Likes hot food, which serves spicy food. So I'm putting in this other observation.
Okay, let's see what it did to your node.
Well, so see, I just put in this data, but there should be, where's the spicy food? Here's the spicy food. Now I wonder if it created a restaurant node. Yes, there is a restaurant node here. Interesting. It didn't merge these two yet.
Right.
These two spicy food nodes.
That's because it's not associated with a user. But yeah, it should have merged.
Oh, that's right. Because I think you can do m.add. Let's do the same thing, but let's do agent ID equals. So this is they support an agent ID. So if an agent wanted to enter information here, let's see what this looks like now. Okay, so that actually linked it.
Yep.
So now I could do m.search
agent ID DAX.
There we go.
There's a restaurant in Seattle called Mike's.
Hot food.
Mike,
yeah. I'm not. I don't run restaurants. Mike's Hot Food serves spicy food. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So that this is remembering your preferences, but you're not. So I've written in the past an enormous amount of code to hand construct cipher queries, or to construct parameterized cipher queries.
Right.
But we don't need to do that anymore because we have this LLM intermediary, which is doing the entity resolution, which is breaking apart the sentence into different concepts, and it's getting the entities and the relationships between the entities. It's pretty cool. So as you can see, it's really easy to add in any kind of entity you want to. And I think this idea behind Mem0 is that they're saying it's memories, right? So imagine if you were just jotting down ideas all day. In fact, I think that'd be a fun thing to try. I can have a Slack channel that I just goes to a Mem0 bot, and just random thoughts that I have throughout the day, I can just text the Slack channel.
Exactly.
And over time, it should develop basically like a mind map and a concept map.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. We bookmark so many of the content that we come across, whether it be on our browsers, in Notion, in Slack, in Google Chat, or wherever else, or even in our emails. Imagine if you could just add that to your memory and then be able to query it dynamically, just like you would query any human, or you'll ask a question of a human. That is incredibly powerful.
And then imagine what's really neat, this self-improving memory layer. So from what I understand, I haven't looked into the details, but it'll actually look at the relevance of your memories, and it can start de-weighting the older ones.
Correct.
Especially, your weights might not be consistent. So maybe 5 years ago, I didn't like spicy food, and I built up a taste for it. And so 5 years ago, I said, I don't like spicy food. But then yesterday, I ranked Mike's spicy food as 5 stars.
Right.
So if I ask it for a recommendation, it's going to give the more recent it's going to take the more recent data and rank it heavier. And so that's that whole self-improving part. And that's for personalized AI experiences. And I think part of what else Mem0 does is manage your context window. Acting as kind of an intermediary between the LLM and just so for my tools that I don't use Mem0 on, it's just this constantly growing array. And then once in a while, I say, summarize the context window and clear it. Right. Correct. And then it can. But
this is much better because you have the entire memory always available to you. And so it makes life way easier. And you can just search it or query it like another, OpenSearch or Elasticsearch instance.
Like you said, they make it really easy to start. They have very simple examples.
Yeah.
there's just there's memories have IDs. You can get all the memories. You can update memories.
Yeah,
Get
you
the
should actually
history
just
of
spend
the
1 minute on there's a graph memory option in that menu. They have some really
Here
neat
we go.
illustrations that show how this is actually built out. Yeah. So take a look at these videos, spend a few minutes going through these videos. They are really neat. The way they actually extract all the entities and the relationships from every sentence that you pass it is fascinating. And then it just turns into Neo4j nodes and relationships. So this is a property graph that they build. And it's very, very neat.
Interesting. I'll have to keep playing with it. This is a really neat idea. It's really cool. I want to try this for a couple of days, just adding random thoughts to it and seeing what my topic map looks like by the end of it. I think this is
Absolutely.
really, really fun. Okay, well, that is Mem0 for us.
Anyway, hope you got some interesting insights from this particular show. Particularly, just a quick reminder again about looking at your RDS MySQL 5.7 instances. There's tons and tons of money to be saved over there. Do not pay exorbitant amounts on extended support for something that's old and has reached end of life. I think it's time to kind of move on to the latest versions and make use of all the amazing infrastructure in AWS to kind of host it. So this is one example where it's totally worth the effort.
And it can make you aware of exactly how much that effort's going to cost, right? Imagine you had
Exactly.
an app and one of the things on your infinite to-do list was, okay, we need to move this over to DynamoDB. And you can say,
Yes.
okay, well, on this
Now's a good
date,
time.
on this date, we're going to be bleeding 4 Cybertrucks per year on this app. So maybe we should change it over, and you can get that on the roadmap with the right priority and resources to make that happen. So CloudFix,
Exactly.
again, we can't automatically fix this one because that would be a breaking change, but we can give you a big alert and all the information at your fingertips to be able to make that change.
Absolutely. Anyway, keep your thoughts and your comments coming, please. We'd love to hear from you. And if there are any specific things that you would like us to cover on this show, please do let us know. Till then, thanks everyone.
See you later. Bye-bye.